The night shift at Stellar Transit Station was always quiet. Daiho preferred it that way. He sat in his small office, surrounded by data screens showing cargo manifests and shipping routes. The hum of the station's life support systems was the only sound keeping him company. Outside his window, stars stretched endlessly into the black void of space. Daiho had been working as a logistics clerk for 3 years now. It was boring work, but that was exactly what he wanted. No excitement, no danger, no decisions that could get people killed. He had seen enough of that in his previous life. The office door suddenly slid open with a soft hiss. Daiho looked up, surprised. His door was locked. It should not have opened without his permission. Standing in the doorway was an alien woman. Her skin looked like crystal, shifting between purple and blue colors under the dim lights. She was tall and thin, with large eyes that seemed to glow softly. Daiho recognized her species immediately. She was Velthani, one of the diplomatic races that helped run the Galactic Federation. "You're in the incorrect room," Daiho said calmly. He pointed at the faded number on his door. "The diplomatic quarters are 3 levels up. This is just cargo management." The alien woman smiled. It was a strange smile, like she knew something he did not. She stepped inside and let the door close behind her. "I know," she said in perfect Korean. Daiho felt a chill run down his spine. Most aliens spoke through translation devices that made their words sound mechanical. This woman spoke Korean like she had been born speaking it. That took years of practice. Why would a Velthani diplomat learn Korean so well? "My name is Lyra," the woman said. She moved closer to his desk but kept a respectful distance. "I need to speak with you about something important, something that concerns your entire species." "I think you have the wrong person," Daiho replied. He tried to keep his voice steady. "I just manage cargo shipments. If you need to speak with someone from Earth's government, you should contact the human ambassador. His office is—" "I know where the ambassador's office is," Lyra interrupted. "I am not here for him. I am here for you, Lieutenant Commander Daiho Kim." Daiho's blood went cold. Nobody on this station knew his old rank. When he left the Earth Defense Fleet 5 years ago, he made sure all records were sealed. He became just another civilian worker, lost in the crowd of humans trying to make a living among the stars. "I don't know what you're talking about," Daiho said carefully. Lyra reached into her diplomatic robes and pulled out a small data chip. She placed it on his desk. "You can pretend if you want, but we both know who you are. You served in Intelligence Division for 8 years. You led 3 successful operations against pirate groups in the Outer Rim. You received 2 medals for valor. Then suddenly, you resigned and disappeared." "That's classified information," Daiho said quietly. "Yes, it is," Lyra agreed. "Which should tell you how serious this situation is. I had to break several laws just to find you. I had to risk my career and possibly my life to come here tonight. So please, Lieutenant Commander, listen to what I have to say." Daiho stared at the data chip on his desk. Every instinct told him to refuse, to call security, to make this woman leave. But something in her eyes made him hesitate. She looked frightened, truly frightened. And in his experience, when a member of an advanced alien species looked frightened, humans should probably be worried too. "Fine," Daiho said. He picked up the data chip. "Talk." Lyra's shoulders relaxed slightly. "Thank you. What I am about to tell you is not known to your government or your military. I have been monitoring Earth's integration into the Galactic Federation for the past year. It is part of my job as a cultural observer. But I found something that does not appear in any official reports." She tapped a control on her wrist device. A holographic display appeared above Daiho's desk, showing star charts and communication logs. Several powerful factions within the Federation are preparing to take action against humanity. They view Earth as a threat that needs to be controlled before you become too strong. Daiho studied the display. He saw military movements near human space, coded messages between alien governments, trade agreements that seemed designed to make Earth dependent on alien technology. "This could be normal diplomatic activity," he said. "The Federation has hundreds of species, They're always making deals and moving ships around. Look at the pattern, Lyra insisted. She highlighted several data points. These movements are not normal. 3 different species are building up military forces near your borders. 5 others are restricting access to technologies that would help Earth develop faster. And there are encrypted communications that suggest a coordinated plan. A plan to do what? Deho asked. To subjugate humanity, Lyra said simply. To turn Earth into a vassal state before your species realizes what is happening. They will use economic pressure first, make you dependent on their trade and technology. Then they will demand political concessions. By the time your leaders understand the situation, it will be too late to resist. Deho leaned back in his chair. His mind was racing. If what Lyra said was true, humanity was walking into a trap. But why would she warn him? Why would an alien risk everything to help humans? Why? He asked. Why are you telling me this? Your species is part of the Federation. You should be loyal to them, not to us. Lyra was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. Because what they are planning is wrong. The Federation was supposed to be a union of equals, but some species have forgotten that. They see younger races like humanity as resources to exploit or threats to eliminate. That doesn't answer my question, Deho pressed. Why risk yourself for us? Lyra met his eyes. Because I have studied your species. I have watched how humans act when faced with impossible situations. You do not give up. You do not accept defeat. You find ways to survive and overcome. The galaxy needs that. The Federation has become stagnant and corrupt. Maybe humanity can change that, but only if you survive long enough to make a difference. Deho picked up the data chip and turned it over in his hands. Even if everything you say is true, what can I do? I'm one person. I left the military because I saw how powerful the alien civilizations are. We can't fight them. You do not have to fight them, Lyra said. You have to expose them. Bring their plans into the light where other species can see. Not every race in the Federation supports this conspiracy. Many would oppose it if they knew it existed. But we need proof. We need time. And we need someone who can operate quietly, who understands military intelligence, who can move through this station without drawing attention. You need someone who is already invisible, Deho said. Yes, Lyra confirmed. Will you help me? Will you help save your species? Deho looked at the data chip one more time. Then he looked at Lyra. He thought about all the reasons he should refuse. The danger, the impossibility of the task, his desire for a quiet life. But deep down he knew he would say yes. Because Lyra was right about humanity. They did not give up. They did not accept defeat. And apparently, he was still human enough to care. Tell me what you need me to do, Deho said. Deho spent the next 2 hours reviewing everything Lyra had brought him. The data chip contained intercepted communications, financial records, and military deployment schedules. Each piece of evidence by itself could be explained away, but when you put them all together, they painted a disturbing picture. This message here, Deho said, pointing to a coded transmission, it mentions the Earth problem and suggests a timeline of 18 months. What happens in 18 months? Lyra pulled up another document. That is when the next Federation Council meeting occurs. Major policy decisions are made at these meetings. If the conspirators want to pass restrictions on Earth, that would be the time to do it. Restrictions like what? Deho asked. Limits on your military expansion, requirements to use only approved technologies, mandatory trade agreements that favor the other species, perhaps even forced immigration policies that would dilute human control of your own worlds. Lyra's crystalline face showed something that looked like disgust. They did this to the Krell species 200 years ago. Now the Krell are scattered across the galaxy, working as laborers for other races. They have no real power or independence anymore. Deho felt anger rising in his chest. And the Federation just allowed this to happen? The Federation authorized it, Lyra corrected. They presented it as helping a struggling species integrate into galactic society. By the time anyone realized what was really happening, the Krell were too weak to resist. Deho stood up and paced around his small office. His mind was working through possibilities and strategies. We need more people. I can't investigate this alone. And you can't stay here without drawing suspicion. You have diplomatic duties that people will expect you to perform. I agree, Lyra said. Who do you trust? That was a difficult question. Daiho had deliberately avoided making close friends since leaving the military. Connections meant vulnerabilities. People you cared about could be used against you. But now he needed help, which meant he needed to trust someone. There's an engineer named Hana who works in the station's maintenance department. Daiho said slowly. I've talked with her a few times. She's smart. Really smart. She once told me she thinks the alien technology we use is deliberately limited to keep humans dependent. She sounds paranoid, Lyra observed. Or she's paying attention, Daiho countered. Either way, she might be willing to help if we can convince her this is real. Who else? Lyra asked. Daiho hesitated. There's a security officer named Taejin. We served together in the defense fleet. He transferred to station security 3 years ago. We don't talk much anymore, but he's reliable. If I asked for his help, he would give it. A security officer could be useful, Lyra agreed. We may need access to restricted areas, but can he be trusted with something this dangerous? Taejin saved my life twice during combat operations, Daiho said. I trust him with my life. The question is whether he'll believe any of this. Lyra stood and moved toward the door. Bring them to Service Tunnel 7 tomorrow at midnight. It is rarely used and not monitored by security cameras. We can talk there safely, but be careful. If the conspirators suspect we are investigating them, they will move against us quickly. Wait, Daiho said. How do I contact you if something goes wrong? Lyra handed him a small communication device. This uses a private frequency. Keep it hidden. If I need to reach you urgently, it will vibrate 3 times. Do not try to contact me unless it is an emergency. My movements are being watched by other diplomats. After Lyra left, Daiho sat in the darkness of his office for a long time. He was thinking about what he had to do next. Convincing Hana might be easy. She already suspected something was wrong with how aliens treated humans, but Taejin would be harder. His old friend had become cynical about humanity's chances among the stars. He believed the best strategy was to keep your head down and not make trouble. The next morning, Daiho found Hana in one of the engineering bays. She was working on a power distribution node, her hands moving quickly through a tangle of wires and circuits. Hana was small and thin, with short hair and grease stains on her uniform. She looked up when Daiho approached. Need something? She asked. I need to talk to you about something important, Daiho said quietly. Something that could be dangerous to know about. Hana's eyes narrowed. That sounds ominous. Can you meet me tonight? Service Tunnel 7, midnight? She studied his face for a moment. This is serious, isn't it? Very serious, Daiho confirmed. Hana nodded slowly. Okay, I'll be there. But you better have a good explanation for all this mystery. Finding Taejin was more difficult. The security officer was on patrol in the station's commercial district, monitoring the crowds of aliens and humans who moved through the shopping areas. Daiho waited until Taejin took a break, then approached him at a quiet cafe. Daiho, Taejin said, surprised. Haven't seen you in a while. What brings you to this part of the station? I need to talk to you, Daiho said. He sat down across from his old friend. Something's happened. Something big. Taejin's expression became guarded. What kind of something? The kind I can't discuss in public, Daiho replied. Can you meet me tonight? Service Tunnel 7, midnight? That's very specific, Taejin said slowly. And very secretive. What's going on? I can't explain here. But I promise you, if I'm wrong about this, you can call me paranoid and never talk to me again. If I'm right. Daiho leaned closer. If I'm right, every human in the galaxy is in danger. Taejin was quiet for a long moment. Then he sighed. You always had a gift for dramatic statements, fine. I'll be there. But this better not be some kind of conspiracy theory nonsense. I wish it was, Daiho said honestly. That night, Daiho arrived at Service Tunnel 7 early. The tunnel was a maintenance corridor that ran behind the main station sections. It was dimly lit and filled with exposed pipes and cables. The perfect place for a secret meeting. Hana arrived first, looking nervous. Okay, I'm here. What's this about? Wait for the others, Daiho said. Taejin came next, still in his security uniform. He looked around the tunnel with professional awareness. Nice location. No cameras, minimal foot traffic. You planning a crime, Daiho? Maybe, Daiho said. Depends on your definition. Finally, Lyra appeared from the shadows at the far end of the tunnel. Both Hana and Teijin tensed immediately. Aliens in maintenance tunnels were unusual and suspicious. "Everyone relax," Deho said quickly. "She's the reason I asked you here. Her name is Lyra. She's a Velthani diplomat, and she has information that concerns all of us." "A diplomat in a maintenance tunnel," Teijin said flatly. "This gets better and better." Lyra stepped forward into the light. "Thank you for coming. What I'm about to tell you will sound impossible, but I have evidence to support everything I say. Several species in the Galactic Federation are planning to subjugate humanity. They view Earth as a threat that must be controlled before you become too powerful." Hana's eyes widened. Teijin's expression remained skeptical. "That's a serious accusation," Teijin said. "You have proof?" "Yes," Lyra replied. She produced a holographic projector and displayed the same evidence she had shown Deho. Military buildups near human space, economic manipulation, coded communications between conspirators, all of it points to a coordinated plan to turn Earth into a vassal state. For the next hour, they reviewed the evidence. Hana asked technical questions about the data. Teijin challenged the interpretation of various documents. But slowly, both of them began to see what Deho and Lyra had already seen. The pattern was real. The threat was real. "Okay," Hana said finally. "Let's say I believe you. What can we do about it? We're just 3 humans and 1 alien. The conspirators are entire governments with armies and resources. We expose them," Deho said. "We gather more evidence. We find allies among the other species who would oppose this. We bring everything into the light where it can't be hidden." "That's a suicide mission," Teijin said bluntly. "These people will kill us if they find out what we're doing." "Probably," Deho agreed. "But what's the alternative? Let humanity walk into a trap? Let Earth become another Krell?" Teijin looked at Hana. She looked back at him. Some unspoken communication passed between them. Then they both turned to Deho. "We're in," Hana said. "Tell us what you need." The team began their work carefully. They could not draw attention to themselves. They could not let anyone suspect what they were investigating. Deho created a schedule that allowed each of them to contribute while maintaining their normal duties. Hana used her position in engineering to access the station's communication systems. She could not break into encrypted channels directly, but she could monitor traffic patterns. She could see who was talking to whom, even if she could not hear what they were saying. These patterns told their own story. "Look at this," Hana said during one of their secret meetings. She displayed a network diagram showing communication flows. Every 3 days, the same 5 diplomatic offices send burst transmissions at exactly the same time. The transmissions go to military commands in their home systems. That's not normal diplomatic traffic. That's coordinated reporting. "Can you intercept the actual messages?" Lyra asked. "Not without triggering security alerts," Hana admitted. "But I can tell you when they're being sent. If you know when to listen, maybe you can position yourself to intercept them at the other end." Teijin contributed by using his security clearance to review access logs and movement records. He discovered that several alien officials were meeting in locations they should not be visiting. Private cargo bays, maintenance sections, even in the restricted military zone of the station. "They're being careful," Teijin reported. "They vary their routes and timing. But I can see the pattern. Every week, representatives from at least 6 different species gather somewhere on this station. They stay for exactly 1 hour, then leave separately. A conspiracy needs conspirators to meet," Deho observed. "Do we know when the next meeting is?" Teijin checked his notes. "Tomorrow night. Based on the pattern, they'll meet in Cargo Bay 12. It's scheduled for maintenance, so officially it's empty. But I can access the security feed and see who really shows up." "I want to be there," Deho said. "Not in the bay itself. Too dangerous. But nearby. If we can identify all the conspirators, we'll know who we're dealing with." The next night, Deho and Teijin positioned themselves in a maintenance crawl space that overlooked Cargo Bay 12. They brought recording equipment and settled in to wait. The cargo bay was large and empty, its normal contents removed for the supposed maintenance work. At exactly midnight, the conspirators began to arrive. They came one at a time, entering through different doors. Deho recognized some of them from diplomatic functions. Others were military officers or trade representatives. All of them were from species known to be powerful in the Federation. "I count 7 so far," Teijin whispered. "Wait, here comes another." The 8th figure to enter was surprising. It was a human. A woman in an Earth diplomatic uniform. She wore the insignia of an assistant trade minister. I know her, Deho said quietly. Her name is Moran. She works in the Human Commerce Office. What is she doing here? They watched as the meeting proceeded below. Without audio, they could not hear what was being said, but the body language told them enough. Moran was not a prisoner or hostage. She was participating in the discussion. She was nodding in agreement. She was part of the conspiracy. We have a traitor, Tejan said grimly. Deho felt sick to his stomach. It was one thing for aliens to plot against humanity, but to see a human actively helping them was worse. Record everything, he told Tejan. We need proof of what we're seeing. The meeting lasted exactly 1 hour, as Tejan had predicted. Then the conspirators left one by one, disappearing back into the station. Deho and Tejan waited an additional 30 minutes before emerging from their hiding spot. We need to tell Lyra and Hana about this, Deho said. They gathered again in Service Tunnel 7. When Deho shared what they had witnessed, Hana looked angry. Lyra looked sad. There are always collaborators, Lyra said quietly. In every subjugation, some members of the victim species help the oppressors. They think they will be rewarded. They think they will be protected. Usually they are wrong. Can we use this? Hana asked. The fact that a human is involved might convince other humans that the threat is real. Or it might make them think we're the traitors, Tejan countered. We're accusing a government official of conspiracy. People might assume we're lying to damage her reputation. Deho thought about the problem. We need more than just evidence of meetings. We need to know what they're planning specifically. We need documents, recordings, concrete proof of their intentions. I might be able to help with that, a new voice said. Everyone spun around. Standing at the entrance to the tunnel was a young man in civilian clothes. He had the relaxed posture of someone who was very comfortable with sneaking around in places he should not be. Who are you? Tejan demanded, his hand moving toward his weapon. Relax, security man, the stranger said with a grin. My name is Rin, I work in communications. Well, officially I repair communication equipment. Unofficially I can make communication equipment do things it's not supposed to do. He's a hacker, Hana said with sudden recognition. I've heard about you. You broke into the station administrator's personal files last year. Allegedly, Rin corrected. Nothing was ever proven. But yes, if you need someone who can access encrypted systems, I'm your person. How did you find us? Deho asked suspiciously. I've been monitoring unusual communication patterns, Rin explained. Same as you, probably. I noticed someone was investigating the diplomatic channels very carefully. Someone who knew what they were doing but wasn't part of station intelligence. That made me curious, so I followed the digital trail. It led to Hana's access patterns. And watching Hana led me to you. You followed me? Hana said indignantly. Don't take it personally. I follow lots of people. It's what I do. Rin's expression became more serious. But I want to help. I've seen things in the encrypted channels that worry me. Messages about Earth that sound threatening. References to historical precedents that, when I researched them, turned out to be other species getting subjugated. Whatever you're investigating, I want in. Deho looked at the others. Tejan shrugged. Hana seemed impressed despite her irritation. Lyra nodded slowly. Okay, Deho said. But if you betray us, if you're working for the conspirators, I will personally make sure you regret it. Fair enough, Rin agreed cheerfully. So what do you need hacked first? Over the next few weeks, the team worked together to gather more evidence. Rin proved to be as skilled as he claimed. He broke into diplomatic archives and military databases. He intercepted encrypted messages and decoded them. He found financial records showing large payments being made to various human officials, including Moran. The picture that emerged was even worse than they had feared. The conspiracy was not just about controlling Earth. It was about erasing human independence entirely. The plan involved economic strangulation, forced technology dependence, and eventually political absorption. Within a generation, humans would exist only as laborers and soldiers for other species. But they also found something unexpected. Evidence that not all aliens supported this plan. There were other species who had voiced concerns in private communications. Species who remembered what the Federation was supposed to stand for. Species who might become allies if they knew the full extent of the conspiracy. The Velthani are divided, Lyra reported. My own people are arguing about how to handle humanity. Some want to support the conspiracy. Others want to protect you. If we could show them proof of what is being planned, many would side with Earth. The Karathi are also potential allies, Rin added, displaying a series of messages he had intercepted. They're a newer member species. They remember what it was like to be weak and vulnerable. These messages suggest they're worried about setting a precedent that could be used against them later. Deho studied the information carefully. A plan was forming in his mind. We can't fight the conspirators directly. But maybe we don't have to. Maybe we just need to make enough noise that other species pay attention. Force the conspiracy into the light where it can't survive. That's dangerous, Tejan warned. Once we reveal what we know, we become targets. They'll try to silence us. They'll try anyway, Hana pointed out. Eventually, they'll notice what we're doing. Better to strike first while we still have the element of surprise. We need a platform, Lyra said thoughtfully. An event where many species are present. Where revelations cannot be easily suppressed. The Federation Council meeting in 18 months would be ideal, but that's too far away. The conspiracy might move before then. What about the trade summit next month? Rin suggested. It's not as big as a council meeting, but there will be representatives from dozens of species. And the whole thing is broadcast across the sector. If we could hijack that broadcast, we'd reach millions of beings simultaneously, Hana finished. Her eyes were bright with excitement. I could work on the technical side. Give me access to the transmission equipment and I can make sure our message reaches everyone. Deho felt a mixture of fear and determination. This was really happening. They were going to challenge some of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. The chances of success were small. The chances of survival were even smaller. But they had to try. Because if they did nothing, humanity would fall. And Deho had spent too many years running from responsibility. It was time to stand and fight. As they prepared for their risky plan, Lyra spent more time observing the human members of their team. She had studied humanity from a distance for years, reading reports and watching recordings. But working closely with Daiho, Hana, Taejin, and Rin taught her things that no report could capture. She watched Hana work on the technical aspects of their plan. The engineer often worked for 16 hours straight, surviving on stimulants and sheer determination. When Lyra suggested she rest, Hana just laughed. I'll rest when we're done, Hana said. Right now, every hour matters. Every day we delay is another day the conspirators get closer to their goal. But you will make mistakes if you are too tired, Lyra pointed out. Your efficiency will decrease. Maybe, Hana admitted. But I can't sleep knowing what's coming. I keep thinking about Earth, about my family back home. If we fail, they'll end up as slaves. That thought keeps me awake better than any stimulant. Lyra found this attitude puzzling at first. Most species in the galaxy understood the importance of rest and balance. They worked hard, but they also knew when to stop. Humans seemed to have no off switch. They pushed themselves beyond reasonable limits because they believed the goal was worth the cost. She saw the same pattern in Taejin. The security officer continued his normal duties during the day, then spent his nights helping with the investigation. He was running on minimal sleep and maximum stress, yet he never complained. He never suggested they slow down or reconsider. Don't you fear what might happen if we're caught? Lyra asked him once. Taejin shrugged. Of course I'm afraid. I'm not stupid. But fear doesn't change what needs to be done. You deal with fear by doing the work anyway. That's what being a soldier taught me. That's what being human means. Even Rin, who seemed lighthearted and casual, showed this same stubborn determination. He broke into increasingly dangerous systems, taking risks that could get him killed. When Lyra expressed concern, he just grinned. Someone once told me that humans are the galaxy's cockroaches, Rin said. We survive things that should kill us. We adapt to situations that would destroy other species. I figure if that's true, I might as well live up to the reputation. But it was Deho who fascinated Lyra most. She had chosen him specifically because his record showed both competence and conscience. What she had not expected was his capacity for growth. The man she met in that small office had been hiding from the world. The man he was becoming led their team with quiet confidence. Why did you really leave the military? Lyra asked him one night. They were alone in the service tunnel, reviewing intelligence reports. Deho was silent for a long moment. I saw what we were up against, he finally said. The alien civilizations are thousands of years ahead of us. They have weapons that could destroy our entire planet in minutes. I led missions against pirate groups, and even those small operations showed me how outmatched we are. I started to think that resistance was pointless, that the best thing for humanity was to accept whatever terms the older species offered. But you don't believe that anymore, Lyra observed. No, Deho agreed. You changed my mind. Or maybe you just reminded me of something I had forgotten. Strength isn't just about weapons or technology. It's about refusing to give up. It's about finding ways to survive even when survival seems impossible. Humans are good at that, maybe the best in the galaxy. That is what scares the conspirators, Lyra said. They have been watching humanity for decades. They see how quickly you learn, how rapidly you adapt, how you take their technology and improve it, how you make alliances with species they consider inferior. They fear that in another century humanity will be their equal. In 2 centuries you might surpass them. That seems optimistic, Deho said with a slight smile. Is it? Lyra pulled up a graph showing human development over the past 100 years. Look at this. When your species first achieved spaceflight, you were using primitive chemical rockets. 50 years later, you had reverse-engineered alien FTL drives. 20 years after that, you improved the design. No other species has matched that rate of advancement. She pulled up another document. And look at this. Humans now serve in the militaries of 6 different alien species. You are the only race to achieve that level of integration so quickly. Other species find you easy to work with, easy to trust. That terrifies the old powers because it means you can build coalitions. I never thought about it that way, Deho admitted. The conspirators have, Lyra said. They have run projections. They have studied human history. They see patterns that remind them of their own species in the distant past, before we became comfortable and complacent, when we were young and hungry and willing to take risks. She looked directly at Deho. That is why they want to stop you now, not because you are strong today, but because of what you will become tomorrow. They understand that humanity's greatest weapon is not military power. It is your refusal to accept limitations. Deho thought about this for a long time. You're saying they're afraid of human stubbornness. I am saying they are afraid of human potential, Lyra corrected. Your stubbornness is just one aspect of it. But yes, that is part of what makes you dangerous to them. Other species, when faced with overwhelming force, surrender and adapt. Humans fight, even when fighting is illogical. Even when the odds are impossible. You fight anyway. She gestured at the data they had collected. This conspiracy exists because your species does not behave the way other species behave. You ask uncomfortable questions. You challenge authority. You demand explanations. You refuse to accept that things must be a certain way just because they have always been that way. That sounds exhausting to deal with, Deho said. It is, Lyra agreed with a slight smile, but it is also necessary. The Federation has become corrupt because no one questions it anymore. No one challenges the old powers. No one demands change, until humans arrived. Now suddenly there are voices asking why things work the way they do, why some species have more rights than others, why the old ways should continue. We're troublemakers, Deho summarized. You are reformers, Lyra said, whether you intend to be or not. Your mere presence in the Federation forces everyone else to reconsider assumptions they have held for centuries. That is powerful. That is dangerous. That is why they want to stop you. The conversation stayed with Deho in the following days. He began to see his team's efforts in a new light. They were not just trying to save humanity from subjugation. They were fighting for the idea that the galaxy could be different. That power should not automatically belong to whoever had it first. That newer, younger species deserved the same chances as older ones. During one of their planning sessions, Deho shared Lyra's insights with the others. So we're not just trying to avoid becoming slaves, Hana said thoughtfully. We're trying to prove that the whole system needs to change. That makes our job harder, Taejin pointed out. We're not just fighting a conspiracy. We're challenging the entire power structure of the Federation. But it also means we have more potential allies, Rin added. Every species that has been marginalized or controlled. Every race that remembers what it was like to be weak. They'll understand what we're fighting for. Deho nodded. Lyra's people are divided on this. So are the Karathi and probably others. If we can show them that humanity represents a chance for real change, not just for us but for everyone, maybe they'll help us. That's a big maybe, Taejin said. All we have are big maybes, Deho replied. But that's better than certain defeat. And isn't that the human way? Finding hope in impossible situations? Hana laughed. Listen to you. A month ago you were hiding in a cargo office. Now you're giving inspirational speeches about human nature. Lyra corrupted me, Deho said with a slight smile. She made me remember why I joined the military in the first place. Not to hide from danger, but to stand against it. Well, we're definitely not hiding anymore, Rin said. The trade summit is in 2 weeks. After that, everyone in the sector will know what we've found. We'll either be heroes or we'll be dead. Probably dead, Tejan added helpfully. Probably, Deho agreed. But we'll be dead trying to do the right thing. That matters. Very human of you, Lyra said softly. She had been listening quietly to the entire exchange. This is what I meant. Other species would calculate the odds and choose survival. You calculate the odds and choose principle. That is your strength. That is your weapon. Then let's hope it's enough, Deho said. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Rin had been systematically breaking into various databases, looking for more evidence of the conspiracy. Most of what he found confirmed what they already knew. But then he discovered something that changed everything. You need to see this, Rin said urgently. He had called an emergency meeting in the middle of the night. I found something in the Federation's historical archives. Something that's been buried for a very long time. He displayed a series of documents on his holographic projector. They were ancient, written in languages that were no longer commonly used. Rin had run them through translation software, but the meaning was clear enough. These are records from about 3,000 years ago, Rin explained. They describe a species called the Methrin. According to these documents, the Methrin were a young race that showed remarkable promise. They were innovative, adaptable, and expanding rapidly through their region of space. What happened to them? Hana asked. They were destroyed, Rin said quietly. Not through war, through economic manipulation and political pressure. The older species of that time decided the Methrin were a threat. So they isolated them, cut off their trade, forced them into increasingly desperate situations. Within 2 generations, the Methrin civilization collapsed. The survivors were scattered and absorbed into other species' populations. Tejan leaned forward, studying the documents. This sounds familiar. It should, Rin agreed. Because it's the exact same playbook being used against humanity right now. I kept digging. I found similar patterns repeating throughout Federation history. At least 5 other species have been subjected to this treatment. Some survived in diminished form. Others disappeared entirely. Deho felt cold dread settling in his stomach. So this isn't just about humanity. This is how the Federation has always operated. They allow new species to join, then destroy any that might become too powerful. Exactly, Lyra confirmed. She looked troubled. I suspected something like this existed, but I did not have proof. These documents show a pattern of systematic subjugation spanning thousands of years. Who knows about this? Hana demanded. Who authorized these actions? The oldest and most powerful species, Lyra said. The ones who founded the Federation. They created a system that maintains their dominance by preventing any younger species from challenging them. It has worked for so long that most beings do not even realize it is happening. Rin pulled up more documents. Here's the interesting part. Not everyone agreed with these policies. I found records of debates, protests, even some species that tried to oppose the subjugations. But they were always outvoted or silenced. So there's precedent for resistance, Deho said thoughtfully. There's precedent for failed resistance, Tejan corrected. These documents show that every species that tried to fight back was defeated. But maybe they didn't have the right evidence, Hana suggested. Maybe they couldn't prove the pattern. We can. We have documents spanning thousands of years. We can show that this isn't just about one species or one incident. It's a deliberate, ongoing policy. Deho began to pace, his mind racing through possibilities. This changes our approach. We're not just exposing a conspiracy against humanity. We're exposing the fundamental corruption at the heart of the Federation. This is bigger than we thought. Much bigger, Lyra agreed, and much more dangerous. If we reveal this information, we are not just threatening a few conspirators. We are threatening the entire power structure that has ruled the galaxy for millennia. Good, Hana said fiercely. Let it burn. If the Federation is built on oppression and lies, maybe it deserves to burn. Careful, Tejan warned. We're talking about destabilizing the largest political entity in known space. That could lead to chaos, war. Billions could die. Or billions could finally be free, Hana countered. Both things can be true, Deho said quietly. This is a bigger decision than we're qualified to make. But we're the ones who have the information. We're the ones who have to choose what to do with it. He looked at each of his teammates. I think we need to present all of this at the trade summit. Not just the conspiracy against Earth, but the entire historical pattern. Let the galaxy decide what to do with the truth. That's incredibly risky, Lyra said. Once this information is public, there will be no going back. Every power structure will be questioned. Every alliance will be tested. The Federation might fragment entirely. Or it might reform, Deho argued. If enough species see the truth, if enough beings demand change, maybe the Federation can become what it was always supposed to be. A union of equals, not a tool for the powerful to control the weak. That's very optimistic, Tejan said. I know, Deho admitted. But what's the alternative? Hide this information? Let the pattern continue? How many more species will be destroyed before someone finally speaks up? Rin was nodding slowly. He's right. We can't unknow what we know. And if we stay silent, we're complicit in whatever happens next. Hana crossed her arms. I'm in. Let's burn it all down if we have to. Tejan sighed heavily. You're all going to get me killed. But fine, I'm in too. Someone has to try to keep you alive long enough to actually do this crazy thing. All eyes turned to Lyra. The Velthani diplomat was quiet for a long moment, her crystalline features reflecting the dim light of the tunnel. My people will be divided by this, she finally said. Many will see it as betrayal. Some will call for my execution. But you are right. The truth needs to be told. I am in. Over the next week they worked frantically to prepare. Rin compiled all the historical documents into a comprehensive database. Hana designed a presentation that would clearly show the patterns spanning thousands of years. Tejan coordinated security measures to protect them during and after the revelation. Deho worked with Lyra to identify potential allies among the other species. They created a list of races that had historical reasons to distrust the old powers, species that had been marginalized or controlled, representatives who had shown signs of moral integrity. We need to contact some of them before the summit, Deho said. Give them a preview of what we're going to reveal. If we can get some support lined up beforehand, we'll have a better chance of surviving the aftermath. I can reach out to the Karathi delegation, Lyra offered. They have always been sympathetic to newer species, and I know their ambassador personally. She can be trusted. I'll contact some human officials, Tejan said. Not everyone in Earth's government is compromised like Miran. There are people who would support us if they knew what we know. The approach to the Karathi was successful. Their ambassador, when shown the evidence, was horrified. She promised to support the revelation at the summit and to rally other like-minded species. But the approach to human officials was more complicated. The first person Tejan contacted reported him to security as a potential agitator. The second listened but refused to get involved. The third seemed interested but then stopped responding to communications. We can't trust Earth's government, Tejan reported grimly. Too many officials are either compromised or too scared to act. We're on our own. Not entirely, Rin said. He had been monitoring communication channels. Word is spreading. Some of the beings we contacted are talking to others. I'm seeing increased traffic among the delegations of younger species. They're discussing something big. I think they're preparing for what we're going to reveal. That could be good or bad, Hana pointed out. If the conspirators hear about this, they'll move to stop us before the summit. Then we need to be ready for that, Deho said. He turned to Tejan. Can you get weapons? Actual military-grade weapons, not just security equipment? Tejan looked uncomfortable. That's illegal on the station. If I'm caught trying to acquire weapons, I'll be arrested immediately. If we're caught doing any of this, we'll be killed, Hana said bluntly. Arrested would be an improvement. She's right, Deho agreed. We need to prepare for violence. The conspirators won't let us expose them without a fight. Tejan nodded reluctantly. I know some people. Former military contractors who supply the black market. I can get us something, but it won't be much. Maybe some energy pistols and body armor. That's better than nothing, Deho said. As the trade summit approached, tension grew throughout the station. Security was increased. Diplomatic delegations arrived from across the sector. The conspirators moved among them, confident and unsuspecting. They had no idea that their entire system was about to be exposed. They had no idea that 5 beings in a maintenance tunnel were preparing to change the galaxy forever. The night before the summit, the team gathered one last time. "Tomorrow everything changes," Deho said. "Win or lose, survive or die, we're doing this. Does anyone want to back out?" Last chance. No one moved. No one spoke. "Okay then," Deho said. "Let's make history." The trade summit began at dawn. Representatives from over 50 species gathered in the main assembly hall, a massive chamber with holographic displays and translation systems. The official agenda included trade negotiations, resource agreements, and diplomatic protocols. Nothing controversial, nothing that would attract unusual attention. Deho and his team had different plans. Hana was positioned in the technical control room, pretending to be part of the maintenance crew. She wore a stolen technician's uniform and carried tools that would allow her to access the broadcast systems. Once the summit was underway, she would take control of the transmission equipment and ensure their message reached across the entire sector. Rin was in a secondary location, ready to bypass any security measures that might interfere with the broadcast. He had already planted several backup systems in case the primary method failed. No matter what the conspirators did, the truth would get out. Taijin was in the assembly hall itself, dressed in his security uniform. He was officially on duty, which gave him a legitimate reason to be there. But under his jacket, he carried one of the energy pistols he had acquired. If violence erupted, he would be ready. Lyra was also in the hall, sitting with the Velthani delegation. Her hands were shaking slightly, but her expression remained calm. She would be the one to formally present their findings to the assembly. Her diplomatic credentials would make it harder for the conspirators to immediately dismiss the accusations. Deho was in the observation gallery, a raised area overlooking the main floor. He carried a datapad containing their complete evidence package. If anything went wrong, if Lyra was stopped or arrested before she could speak, he would step forward and present the information himself. The summit began with routine business. Trade representatives discussed grain shipments and mineral rights. Ambassadors exchanged pleasantries and signed minor agreements. Everything was proceeding normally. Deho watched Miran, the human trader, sitting among the conspirators. She looked confident and relaxed. She had no idea what was coming. After 2 hours of routine proceedings, Lyra stood and requested permission to address the assembly. This was slightly unusual, but not unheard of. The chairman recognized her and gave her the floor. Lyra walked to the central podium. Every eye in the chamber followed her. The holographic displays shifted to show her image across the sector. "Distinguished delegates," Lyra began, "I come before you today with information that concerns the future of the Galactic Federation. Information that has been hidden for thousands of years." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The chairman looked confused. Several of the conspirators shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Hana activated her systems. The holographic displays suddenly showed the historical documents that Rin had discovered. Records of the Methrin and other subjugated species. Evidence of the pattern of systematic oppression. "What you are seeing is real," Lyra continued. "These are official Federation records that have been buried in classified archives. They show that for millennia, the oldest powers in the Federation have been destroying any species that might threaten their dominance." The chamber exploded into chaos. Delegates were shouting. Some demanded that Lyra be removed. Others called for the documents to be examined. The chairman was banging his gavel, trying to restore order, but the broadcast was already spreading across the sector. Millions of beings were seeing the evidence. The truth was out. One of the conspirators, a high-ranking military officer from a powerful species, stood abruptly. "This is a lie. These documents are forgeries created by agitators seeking to destabilize the Federation." "They are not forgeries," Lyra replied calmly. "They can be verified through the historical archives. Any species with proper clearance can access them and confirm their authenticity." "And humanity is the next target," Deho said loudly from the observation gallery. He stood, holding up his datapad. "The same tactics used against the Methrin and others are being used against Earth right now. We have proof of economic manipulation, political pressure, and military buildups near human space." Security guards moved toward Daiho, But Tajian intercepted them. "Let him speak," Tajian said, his hand resting visibly on his weapon. "Everyone deserves to hear this." More evidence appeared on the displays: the intercepted communications, the secret meetings, the financial records showing payments to human collaborators. And there, clear as day, was footage from the secret meeting in Cargo Bay 12. Moran's face was clearly visible among the conspirators. Moran stood, her face pale. "This is a misunderstanding. I was only—" "You were betraying your own species," Deho interrupted. "For what? Money? Promises of safety? Did you really think they would protect you once humanity was subjugated?" The chamber descended into chaos again. Some delegates were trying to leave. Others were demanding explanations. The conspirators were attempting to coordinate a response, but events were moving too quickly. Then something happened that Deho had not anticipated. Security forces loyal to the conspirators began moving into the assembly hall. These were not station security. These were military units from several different species, all heavily armed. "This is an illegal gathering," the military commander announced. "By order of the Federation Security Council, this assembly is disbanded. Anyone who resists will be arrested." "The Security Council has no authority to disband the Trade Summit," the Karathi ambassador shouted. "This is a clear violation of Federation law." "Federation law is whatever we say it is," the commander replied coldly. He gestured to his troops. "Clear the chamber. Arrest anyone who was involved in this conspiracy theory nonsense." Tajian drew his weapon. So did several other security officers who had been convinced by the evidence. Around the chamber, delegates began choosing sides. Some supported the conspirators. Others supported Lyra and Deho. Within seconds, weapons were drawn throughout the assembly. "Everyone stop," Deho shouted. "This is exactly what they want. If we fight each other now, we're playing into their hands." But it was too late. Someone fired a shot, then another. Suddenly, the assembly hall erupted into violence. Hana abandoned the control room and ran toward the hall, trying to reach her teammates. Rin was fighting with security personnel who had discovered his location. Tajian was exchanging fire with the military units, trying to protect the delegates who had sided with them. Lyra was pushed to the ground as delegates fled in panic. Deho jumped from the observation gallery, landing hard on the main floor. He fought his way through the chaos toward Lyra. An energy blast caught her in the side. She cried out and collapsed. Deho reached her and pulled her behind an overturned desk for cover. "I'm sorry," Lyra gasped. Blood was seeping through her diplomatic robes. "I should have anticipated this. Should have been more careful." "You did everything right," Deho told her. He pressed his hands against the wound, trying to stop the bleeding. "The truth is out there now. Everyone saw it. Everyone knows." "Will it be enough?" Lyra asked weakly. "I don't know," Deho admitted. "But we tried. That's what matters." Tajian fought his way to their position, providing covering fire. "We need to get her out of here. She needs medical attention." Hana arrived moments later, carrying a medical kit she had stolen from somewhere. She immediately began working on Lyra's wound. "I can stabilize her, but she needs a real doctor soon." Rin appeared, limping and bleeding from his own injuries. "The broadcast is still going out. Every system I planted is active. They can't stop it now. The whole sector is watching this fight." "Good," Deho said grimly. "Let them see what happens when you challenge the old powers. Let them see the conspiracy resorting to violence to maintain control." Around them, the battle continued. But something was changing. More security forces were arriving, but these were from species that had been convinced by the evidence. They were intervening to stop the fighting, separating the combatants. The Karathi ambassador was on an open channel, broadcasting to the entire sector. "What you are witnessing is the death of the old Federation. The corrupt powers are exposed and they respond with violence, but we will not be silent. We will not submit. We demand reform. We demand justice. We demand truth." Her words resonated across the galaxy. On 1,000 worlds, beings were watching the chaos at the Trade Summit. They were seeing the evidence that Lyra had presented. They were seeing the conspirators resort to violence to maintain their control, and they were beginning to react. Reports started coming in, protests on multiple worlds, delegations withdrawing from Federation councils, alliances fracturing. The entire political structure of the galaxy was shaking. "We did it," Lyra whispered. She was very pale now, her crystalline skin losing its usual luster. "The truth is out. Even if we don't survive, the truth survives." "You're going to survive," Deho told her firmly. He looked at Hana. "How is she?" "Not good," Hana said quietly. "The blast damaged some critical organs. I've done what I can, but she needs surgery. Real surgery with proper equipment." Tajin was coordinating with the arriving security forces. "I've got a medical team coming." "ETA 3 minutes." "Can she last that long?" "She has to," Deho said. He looked down at Lyra, this alien who had risked everything for humanity. "You came to my office because you believed in us. Because you thought humans could help change the galaxy. Don't you dare die before seeing if you were right." Lyra managed a weak smile. "Very." The medical team arrived and took Lyra away on a stretcher. Deho wanted to go with her, but there were still things that needed to be done. The fighting in the assembly hall had stopped, but the aftermath was just beginning. The conspirators had been detained by security forces from multiple species. Miran, the human traitor, was in custody along with representatives from 6 other races. They would face trial for their actions, though what form that trial would take remained unclear. The Federation was fracturing. Within hours of the broadcast, 20 species formally withdrew from the organization. Another 30 demanded emergency reforms. The old power structure was collapsing under the weight of its own corruption. But not everyone supported the changes. Some species saw the chaos as an opportunity to seize more power. Others feared that without the Federation, the galaxy would descend into war. The future was uncertain and dangerous. Daiho, Hana, Tajin, and Rin were hailed as heroes by some and condemned as traitors by others. They received death threats and job offers in equal measure. Earth's government, after initially trying to distance itself from their actions, eventually embraced them as patriots who had saved humanity from subjugation. But Deho did not care about any of that. He spent every available hour at the medical center, waiting for news about Lyra. The Veltani doctors worked for 3 days straight, performing multiple surgeries to repair the damage from the energy blast. On the 4th day, they finally told him she would survive. Deho was allowed to visit her in recovery. Lyra was awake but weak, her crystalline skin still pale. Medical equipment surrounded her bed, monitoring her vital signs. "You look terrible," Lyra said with a faint smile. "You look worse," Deho replied. He sat down beside her bed. "The doctors say you'll make a full recovery. It will take time, but you'll heal." "Good," Lyra said. "I want to see what happens next." "I want to see if we really changed anything." "We did," Deho assured her. "The Federation is falling apart. Some species are forming new alliances. Others are going independent. Earth is being courted by multiple factions who want humans as partners. Everything is different now." "Different is not always better," Lyra observed. "Chaos can be worse than corruption." "Maybe," Deho admitted. "But at least now people have a choice. At least now the truth is known. That has to count for something." Over the following weeks, Lyra continued to recover while the galaxy continued to change. A new organization began to form, called the Coalition for Galactic Reform. It included many of the younger species and some of the more progressive older races. The Karathi ambassador became its first leader. They offered Lyra a position as a senior diplomat. They wanted her experience and her moral authority. She was the one who had exposed the conspiracy. She was the one who had risked everything for truth, but Lyra declined. "I am tired," she told Deho when he visited her after she was released from the medical center. "I have spent my entire life in diplomatic service, always following rules, always being careful. I want to do something different now." "Like what?" Deho asked. "I want to teach," Lyra said. "I want to establish a school where different species can learn together, where young beings can study history honestly, without propaganda or hidden agendas, where they can learn to question authority and think critically." "That sounds like you're trying to create more troublemakers," Deho said with a smile. "Exactly," Lyra agreed. "The galaxy needs more troublemakers. More beings who refuse to accept that things must stay the way they are. You humans have taught me that." Deho was also offered many positions. The Coalition wanted him to lead their intelligence division. Earth's government wanted him to return to military service with a high rank. Several corporations offered him enormous salaries to work as a security consultant. He declined them all. "What will you do?" Hana asked him. The team had gathered one last time in what had become their usual meeting place, the service tunnel where everything had started. "I'm going back to my office," Deho said. "Back to managing cargo logistics." Everyone stared at him in disbelief. "You just helped bring down the largest political organization in the galaxy," Tejan said slowly. "And you want to go back to filing paperwork about freight shipments?" "Yes," Deho said simply. "I didn't do this for glory or power. I did it because it needed to be done. Now it's done. I can go back to my quiet life." "That's insane," Rin said. "You could be important. You could help shape what comes next." "Other people can do that," Deho replied. "People like Lyra, who want to build new institutions. People like the Karathi ambassador, who have vision for the future. I'm just a soldier who got pulled into something bigger than himself. Now I want to go home. But the galaxy still needs people like you," Hana argued. "People who won't give up. People who fight for what's right." "The galaxy has people like that," Deho said, looking at each of his teammates. "It has you, Hana, who worked for days without sleep because you refused to let humanity fall. It has you, Tejan, who stood up to military units even though you knew you might die. It has you, Rin, who risked everything to expose the truth." He smiled. "And the galaxy has millions of other beings who are just starting to realize they have a voice. Young species who now know they don't have to accept oppression. That's what we really accomplished. We didn't save the galaxy. We showed the galaxy that it could save itself." Lyra, who had been listening quietly, nodded in approval. "Very wise. Though I notice you did not mention that the galaxy also has humans, who are perhaps the most stubborn species in existence, who refuse to quit even when quitting would be logical." "Especially that," Deho agreed. The team talked long into the night, discussing what they would do next. Hana had decided to join the Coalition's technology division, where she would help newer species develop advanced systems. Tejan was staying in station security, though he had been promoted to a leadership position. Rin was considering several offers from organizations that needed his particular skills, though he joked that he might just become a full-time information broker. Before they parted ways, Lyra gave each of them a small crystal. "These are fragments of my home world," she explained. "I want you to have them as a reminder. A reminder that we came from different worlds, different species, different ways of thinking. But we worked together for something greater than ourselves. And we didn't die," Rin added cheerfully, "which is the best possible outcome." "Some of us almost died," Lyra corrected, touching her side where the wound was still healing. "Almost doesn't count," Rin said. Months passed. The galaxy continued to change and evolve. The old Federation officially dissolved, replaced by smaller regional alliances and the growing Coalition. There were conflicts and setbacks. Some species tried to exploit the chaos, but slowly a new order began to emerge, one that was more fair, more transparent, and more accountable. Earth prospered in this new environment. Human colonies expanded. Human technology improved rapidly as the artificial limitations were removed. Human diplomats and traders moved throughout the galaxy, building relationships and forming partnerships. And in a small office in Section 7B of Stellar Transit Station, Deho reviewed cargo manifests and shipping routes. His work was boring and routine, exactly the way he liked it. One evening, his door slid open unexpectedly. He looked up, half expecting to see another crisis walking through his door. It was Lyra. She looked much better now, her crystalline skin glowing with health. She wore simple clothes rather than diplomatic robes. "You're in the incorrect room," Deho said with a smile. "The new reform school is 3 levels up," Lyra smiled back. "I know, but I wanted to visit an old friend, to see if he was still hiding in his office pretending to be just a cargo clerk." "I'm not pretending," Deho said. "I really am just a cargo clerk now. No conspiracies to fight, no galaxy to save, just shipping schedules and inventory reports." "Good," Lyra said. She sat down across from his desk. "The galaxy needs people who are content to do simple work. Not everyone can be a hero all the time. Is that why you came? To tell me it's okay to be ordinary?" "No," Lyra said. "I came to tell you thank you for being extraordinary when it mattered, for showing me that one person really can make a difference, for reminding me why I believed in humanity in the first place. She stood to leave, then paused at the door.